Thank you all for coming. We appreciate that, and we certainly do appreciate you being here tonight and recording this for the citizens that are interested in what we're doing. Has everybody signed the sheet coming in? The sign-in sheet? Okay. And we received our minutes from the last meeting and also the updated revisions of the rules that we discussed in the past. So first we'll need to vote on the minutes of the last meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve them as presented? To dispense with the reading? A motion by Joseph.
Second.
And seconded by Robert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, before we get into going over these rules one by one, we do have a couple of commissioners that are here, and I'd like to ask if there was something they wanted to particularly address tonight, or they have any questions of concern that they just want to go ahead and just sit and listen to us do what we're going to do with each one of these rules one by one. Mrs. Ross, how about you?
Okay. I think I'm interested in the process. There's a couple of ones that I'm particularly interested in to make sure, from my perspective, that it doesn't hamper or restrict anything that we have as far as the county executive or his position goes. I've had quite enough of that, as I'm sure a lot of people have, but I just would like to be here to watch and see how this plays out for the rules going forward.
Okay. And what about you?
I have two concerns, one of which I addressed right before the meeting about having a presentation for all of us once all this is established. You already said that definitely was the plan. My other concern is this nominating committee in July.
Okay, the one that addressed that one. That's your other concern.
Yes,
policy. Okay, that's going to be in rule number 8 or after. So
yes,
we're not there yet.
Okay.
But that will probably be one of the ones that has the most discussion. I would
Well,
think.
I would like to see it done more balanced rather than the chairman naming that committee. I'd rather see it where.
Do you have a copy of the existing rules and
Yes.
regulations? Do you too, Christy?
I do. That's particularly the one I'm interested
Okay,
in.
number
doing.
8. We've got 5, 6, and 7 to do first, and since that's what we're prepared for, we're going to stick with that agenda then. I just wanted to see if that was anything right now that you
Right.
were concerned about.
I'm not familiar with that.
As we go through these, and as we have questions that come up from week to week, or meeting to meeting, we're still consulting with our attorney and with Mr. Curtis, and the Tennessee codes as well as Robert's Rules of Order. So we're still trying to do our homework as we go along.
Okay.
After we get a complete set ready, they're going to be handed over to Mr. Curtis and to our attorney to review them. And then we'll go back and tweak things that they suggest that we might need to make some changes on. And we may go week to week and change our minds and go back and revisit something too. After that, then and of course, we're going to let our county executive, Mr. Haley, look through them also. And well, anybody that wants to look through the rough draft. Then after that is all fine-tuned, then it will be presented to the full commission to pass.
Okay.
After the full commission passes it, there will be an educational process. And we'll bring the entire commission together for a training session after everybody's had a chance to review it, maybe 2 or 3 times till we can get it on everybody's schedule, and then we'll carry forward. That was our plan. Is everybody in agreement with that? You want to add to anything on that? Okay. Okay, so we've got two sets here, which is ours and Putnam County. So we're at number 5. Before we go on to number 5, does anybody want to make any changes to 1, 2, 3, and 4? Or revisit them at this time, or let them go and then we'll revisit them later? We'll move on with number 5 tonight?
Well, I just want to point out points of order and procedure that's been exercised to this point. And the more you get into this, the more you know more about the detail of it and the wording of it and how it transpires during a meeting and action. And I think just put a little sidebar note there that that particular one, number 5, and of course number 5 would piggyback off number 6, appeal of a ruling, that probably needs to be visited again. We don't have to do it tonight because we've got a lot of ground to cover, and I don't want to dwell on that because number 5 is going to take a while because of the motions. I just think the particular wording of that is a little bit gray. It can be interpreted in a lot of different ways, but again, I don't want to get into it at this point. Let's move forward and try to make some ground this evening.
All right, would you be willing to look back over number 5, which is the point of order, as revised on our revised one, but I only saw one word that we changed in point of order
Right.
from the last time. And look through Putnam counties and then
Sure.
and come back
Yep.
with your recommendations next meeting. Did you hear that, Daniel?
What's that?
Robert's going to review number 5, the point of order, and cross-reference Putnam County's point of order and Robert's Rules of Order's point of order, and come back next week with what his concerns and maybe a revised way to address that one.
And to
And I think, though, hearing is that he thinks the biggest thing when a point of order is raised is that it is addressed for what the point of order was raised for.
you have to make a declaration as to what the point of order was made for exactly. But that being said, and we'll move on, everybody has my contact information. If you want to look over that and call me before we have our next meeting to have a conversation about it so I can get some feedback from everyone. That way, maybe when we get back here, we'll have something concise that we can streamline this.
And Carlene, what were your thoughts on the Putnam County rules on point of order?
I have not gone back and reviewed those, but, and looking at Robert's Rules of Order's point of order, there's like 11 pages on it. And it basically, just in the very beginning of it, it looks like it's, if the chairman accepts the point of order that's raised, if no one questions what the point of order was raised for, he could declare it as accepted and just keep on moving on. If somebody doesn't say,
Isn't it usually obvious why they call point of order though? I mean,
But we don't need to leave some gray area in town.
that's where our problem gets, is if, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you're right. I mean, there's no doubt about
And
that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think as a courtesy to the individual that the point of order has been determined,
well, the chairman could do that in his,
Right,
like he could
exactly.
say, I think we are off the subject, we are venturing into a
Time.
different, or something,
Yeah.
or whatever, and then the chairman could declare why he done it.
Right.
But I don't know.
well, let's just, those are great ideas, good thoughts on that too. And
I'll read what Robert's Rule of Order says. I got it up
Yeah.
with it, so I'll read it.
and then we can make it to, there was just a little bit of language that was in there that, that there was so much variation in that particular wording is what I was more concerned about. But I agree with what you're saying as far as, it's pretty obvious, but I mean, state the obvious, I think, would be a courtesy. to the
You're saying if
person.
the chairman asked the individual,
Uh,
the chairman does not know?
yeah,
Well, if you're the one that calls for a point of order, if you say why you call for a point of order, that would help the chairman to decide.
I
as far
think
as
so
that goes.
too, yeah.
But if you don't, if it's not an obvious thing and then the chairman says, you know, you're correct or incorrect or whatever, then you go on what the chairman
Right.
says, so.
Yeah,
Well, you can appeal it too.
Yeah, on theirs, yeah, on ours too, you can appeal it. If you can appeal to the board, then you have a majority vote, you know. And then at that point in time, you could say, here's why I think that we were getting off the point of order. I mean, that's just a thought.
yeah, well, that's, I mean.
To not clog it all up.
Well, no, that's the whole idea behind this is
Right.
Drano.
To make it run a little smoother.
Right,
Right.
right,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to rule number 5, which references Putnam County's on is rule 6 on page 5. Okay, if you want to have that one out with you. And so rule 5 is about motions, rule 6 is resolutions, and rule 7 is elections and appointments. Okay, so you ready for rule 5, motions? Mm-hmm. Okay, now I'm gonna do all 3 of these, and then, let's see what kind of notes you guys have made about that. Okay, introduction and debate. Motions may only be made by members. No motion shall be debated until the same is seconded and stated by the chairperson. Motions in writing. When a motion is made and seconded, it shall be reduced to writing by the clerk and read by the chairperson prior to any debate or vote. Number 3 is requiring roll call. Motions shall be put to the board for a voice vote by the chairman, except where required by statutory law, providing, however, any 3 members of the board may require a roll call by raising of hand or indicating otherwise.
We've not been following number 2 too well.
Well, the clerk usually reads it back as to what the motion is that we're voting on.
Yeah, but I
Not
don't think
been-
that's been happening.
No, because you hear a lot of people asking, what are we voting
Yeah,
on?
and it needs to be read aloud.
Well, the chairperson has been reading it aloud, but I think most of the time they usually do it by memory.
Right.
Because our motions aren't usually long, you know,
Right.
it doesn't take them long to restate the motion. But the clerk should be writing all this down.
Well, she will have it written out, and then,
if he's confused
but in
about
the
it.
past, it's always been the clerk that read it, but this here, we've got in here that the chairperson, which is good, that the chairperson would read it. But usually the chair will say, would you read that, Ms. Scott?
Yeah, because that would be a good idea, because she's written it down, and that's, you know, I mean, that's, so therefore, it's in the minutes, it's, it's a binding motion.
Right.
You know, because the language is.
Instead of her handing it to him and him reading it.
Right.
Would you read that, Ms. Scott, or the clerk could read it?
And there's been times when we passed a motion, and she's requested a repeat of the motion and or reword the motion.
During the vote, right.
Yeah, so that's critical.
But it doesn't matter either way. I mean, it's not a big deal either way, whether the chairperson reads it or the clerk reads it.
The point here is being made is that it's clear and precise and
Exactly.
accurate by
Right.
recording it, and that the chairperson does recite it, and it's her responsibility to let him know if he has not done it correctly.
So that's good to leave it in as the chairperson then.
Yeah,
Yes,
but I think, it needs to be written
Putnam
down
County
before he
says
reads
chair-
it, though, is what I'm
right.
saying.
Well, she writes them down though. I mean, I believe she does, or I know she does, because it's in your,
She'd have to,
minutes
yeah.
when she mails it to you. And theirs says or read by the clerk. Theirs has in there or read by the clerk.
who, Putnam County?
It says, and stated by the chairman or read by the clerk.
you want to put that in there?
Well, that'd be an option.
Well, one of the things also that's in here, it says, pretty much the same language that we have, reduced to writing by the clerk, and see where ours doesn't state reduced by writing by the clerk.
It does in 2, motions in writing. It shall be
It shall be
reduced to writing by the clerk.
And over here
In
on
the
number,
second
rule
one?
number 5.
Okay, yep, I got it.
Okay.
Well, I think that's not a bad idea, and if we just follow it, you know, that's one thing that we just.
We could
need to be
include
consistent.
or, the chairperson or clerk, and that, if it's a, you know, if it's something, if it's a larger one, the chairperson may want to read it out loud themselves. If it's just something simple, they may just say, would the clerk please read the,
Okay,
And or under
let's
weather.
add or read
and
by
it
the
might
clerk.
make it a little, run a little
Recommend weather
smoother.
and stuff.
Right,
So you're saying on rule number 1, I mean, rule 5, number 1,
No, number 2.
number 2.
number 2,
And read by the chairperson or the clerk prior to any debate of the vote.
like Daniel said, he could come in there with bronchitis or laryngitis or something like that, and then, you know,
We're covered.
right. Well, either way, then we're doing it by the statutes that we've set up, if you allow a little leeway there.
So the language is and read by the chairperson or clerk. Is that what you wrote in there?
Or read by the clerk.
Or, okay.
Oh,
Read by the
okay. It says and read by the chairperson or the clerk prior to any debate
Okay.
of vote. Okay.
All right.
Then under requiring roll call. Did anybody have any concerns about that?
Let's look over here real quick, though, on 6D, on Putnam County, motion to table. That just,
That's a tabling, that's not the roll
oh,
call.
okay.
Okay, roll call is down like at 7B. But that roll call, it comes again later on, so just requiring roll call.
Yeah, that's, right, okay.
Where you can just, this is only,
This is talking about on resolutions, is what it's referring to.
and we've not really had a problem with that. I think what we've been doing is exactly what this is saying.
It
And
is.
then when a person, when there's been no's,
Appropriations fund
and then
transfers.
he asks for show of hands, if there's gonna be more than 3 or at least 3, then they need to do a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says here by raising hand or indicating otherwise.
Right.
I think otherwise could just have a shouting, but I don't like that myself. I'd rather have raise hands or some stand up.
You're saying it's not leave it to interpretation?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Cut
That's
that
not a
off.
bad idea.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, by raising of hand would be
Because I think you used it the other night and you said,
raise hands, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
let's-
raising hands, at least, points it out.
Yeah,
Indicating
A
otherwise.
show of hands requires people to step up and say what they've done instead of just going aye and hiding in the crowd.
when you hear it, you think, well, how many?
We don't know how many,
said that?
exactly,
And so that's why
exactly.
you have to have a roll call.
So you could delete the indicating otherwise and you could put a period at the end of hand
I
and
think
you're
so.
covered.
Yeah.
I think so.
I
Yeah.
don't know
Okay.
why that would have even been there. How would you indicate otherwise?
You'd have to holler.
Grunt?
Yeah, I'll grunt.
Okay, in our motions, 6D, the motion to table is not included in ours. Oh, that says motion to reconsider. That's different. Tabling a motion is one thing, and reconsidering a motion is another, because you want to go back and get more information on a reconsideration. I feel like we ought
Motion
to
to
add
reconsider, yeah.
add a 4 under motions
Under
and put the
resolution.
motion to table that Putnam County has on theirs.
Well, that's probably not a bad idea.
Does anybody have any?
Well, on resolutions, on Rule 6 and 5, it goes to motion to reconsider. It's not under motions, it's under resolutions in Rule 6.
But I just would like to add it under Rule 5 too, because we're,
Just for any general
you know, there are
motion.
motions and
Yeah.
then there are resolutions.
Right.
So they are two separate functions.
Okay,
That's
In
that was-
general motion.
right.
You want to add 6D to rule number 4?
Yeah, it would be, but it would be number 4 on ours, but it's 6D in Putnam counties.
Page 5.
Do you want me to read that
Yeah.
out loud, or?
Please.
I'll go back.
Yeah, just put 6D, page.
Yeah, I'll go back and
5.
type this up.
For the people sitting in the audience. I should read it out loud or not, if they care. Y'all want to hear what a motion to table states? Okay. A motion to table another motion duly made and seconded may be made, and if this tabling motion receives a second, the chairman shall call for a vote on the tabling motion without debate or discussion. The chair may restate and clarify the original motion. The majority of the board as it exists shall be required for passage of the tabling motion.
Now, that's one time if you got 5 missing, that the majority of the 19 carries.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
It's 2/3 of what's present, is what that says, which is
And which is,
fine.
yeah, because the people that are absent
We'll have the opportunity when it comes
didn't
back
even
up
know this was getting
anyway.
ready to happen. So-
Exactly.
So if something's tabled, does it automatically come back the next month to be discussed again?
Has to be brought back
It has
up.
to be brought back
Yeah.
up.
Okay,
No.
so it's not automatic?
No.
Okay.
No, but reconsideration of,
That is.
can be stated that they have to either be, we'll get to that one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But you're right, no,
So are we adding that as a number 4 under
that's what we're
Rule
saying.
5?
Number, is that okay with everybody?
6D,
Yes.
yes. As worded is fine.
Well, it's relevant to it falls under the category of motions, so.
So if we're going to entertain discussion about rationalization on points of order, should that be entertained as well on motion to table? Is that not a similar scenario? Or is that even needed altogether?
Repeat that.
Well,
Like, well, you know, Robert was talking earlier about, you know, when we call point of order, and then the chairman makes the decision on whether there's relevancy on the person to proceed or not, about the possibility of changing the rules to accommodate this person calling the point of order to state their reason why. Should the person tabling do the same thing? Is that a similar scenario?
I don't think so. I think if a person, if you're the one that wants to table it, more than likely in your statement, I think we ought to table this until all the other members are present, or I think we need to have a little more research on it. I think when you say that, you're gonna make a statement as why you're tabling it, so that you can convince the others to vote with you on tabling it. If you don't, that's your fault. Correct? If I want you to vote to table it, I'm gonna tell you why I think it ought to be tabled.
You're
I think
actually-
that's just-
You're working on a motion there, not a point of order. A point of order is just totally different.
Yeah, but I was just wondering
Yeah.
about.
I think
the
if you're gonna
explanation
call
part
for
of
the
it.
Says on
tabling, you're gonna
there
throw it
is
out
no debate
anyway,
or
right?
discussions.
Yeah.
You
And
don't
I know
have to
that in
tell
Robert's
people they
Rules
have
of
to
Order,
throw it out.
A tabling of a motion does not, you can't discuss it. You gotta address it, and if it doesn't pass, then the motion's still on the floor.
If when you want something tabled, if you say, I just think we ought to table it, you don't give any reason, you just leave it up in the air for everybody, let's just go ahead and knock this out, or, so I think that's just common sense that the person's gonna say it anyway without telling them they have to say it.
well, the point of order also falls under a different category other than the motion content, because a point of order can be called at any particular time if a person is speaking too
During
long.
discussion.
Yeah, during discussion, or, if they're unruly, or time management, purposes, so I think that may be a different criteria other than what the tabling of that particular motion, because you're talking about tabling a motion that's already been made.
Right.
So I have a question, because Joseph didn't say what his point of order was about, and when I asked him, he said it was because what I was saying was irrelevant. But now, the county attorney told me that's not a reason for a point of order. Time is.
Right.
That's up for the chair to decide on
Yeah.
whether it's relevant.
I think.
That could be my opinion,
I think
then
point
chair
of-
decides.
In my opinion, point of order would be, if it's not relevant, why are we listening to it?
Right.
Well, if
I
I
would
feel
think
it's
so.
relevant and he doesn't,
That's why the chair steps in and decides for us.
And then if they appeal it, then everybody votes and decides whether
Right.
it's relevant or not. And that way you have a democracy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chair never decided.
Because 24 people are
you
never
never
gonna
stated the
agree.
reason either.
Exactly.
He never asked me.
But in these rules, he would have to say, right? I think it's only fair, if you're gonna interrupt someone, that you should have to say why.
Well, you know,
Well,
this is a learning curve.
that's the one that we're gonna
and
revisit,
we're-
remember?
And this is what we had.
For instance, I thought I went over time because it's hard for me to talk. It takes me longer
Right,
to get things out.
right.
We don't really have an established time limit yet, but we're going to have one in these things.
Is there any way in my case, out of a courtesy, because it does take me longer, could I have a little extra time for my disability or no?
I don't think so.
I think it's something we certainly need to consider,
Thank you.
because you're saying the word disability here, and
Yeah,
that
it
is
is, it speaks to.
absolutely.
I know I have vocal cords and I have to take a lot of air to project my voice.
Okay.
And it's hard for me. I mean, I can get doctors.
Oh, you don't have to do that. We'll leave.
Yeah.
We-
Well, that's a good, a
We'll certainly
valid point.
consider that, okay?
And, well, of course, like I said, we're gonna have discussion in the next 2 weeks over number 4, to hash this out a little bit more and have it more precise. And this is exactly the reason why we need to do this, because of
Absolutely.
that, so.
We all need to be on the same page.
Right, yeah, yeah.
I didn't know what to do that night. You know, I just stopped talking. No, I'm just saying, these are issues that.
All right. Are we ready to go to rule number 6, resolutions? Is everybody go with that? Do we?
Well, there's another thing here, well, actually 6E and 6G that fall under the same category as motion.
Well, in Putnam counties, they do motions and resolutions together. In
Okay.
Warren counties, rule number 5 pertains
Mhm.
to motions, and rule number 6 pertains to resolutions.
Oh, okay, never mind. Yep.
Okay, and if you.
It's right there.
And then and here comes the reconsiderations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, never mind. Yep. Let's go to Rule 6.
Putnam counties is, in so many areas, it seems like it's just clearer.
Just, I mean, if
They
you
face
look,
a
they,
lot of situations.
yeah, and they've stayed
They've
on it. as
updated
far
it
as
several
the-
times, right?
Yeah, several times.
Okay.
We might wanna think about joining the motions and resolutions and stuff where you don't have the repetition of it.
Well, a resolution has to be prepared in advance, a motion doesn't. So it is totally different. I mean, you just can't come.
Well, on this though, when they talk about resolutions, it says resolutions, then when they talk about motions, it says motion, and then. But they put like motion to table, where we're gonna have it in here twice, they have motion to table once. See, we're gonna have motion to table again under resolutions, probably. But we're gonna talk about motions anyway, to reconsider. See, they have a motion to reconsider, he brought that up, Robert did. They have it down here, but we have it also, we already have it over here on the resolutions, motion to reconsider. So if we put motions and resolutions, we might not have to do it twice.
Well, let's read through these and then,
We can do it separate and then look and see if we got a bunch of doubling, and then we might wanna tie them together.
Needs it.
Yeah,
okay, since there's 6 of them, why don't we just do them one at a time? Want to try that one? Rule 6, instead of reading all 6, go with Well, I'll read the headings. We're going to introduce a resolution, the author of it, the roll call vote, the changing of the vote, the motion to reconsider, and successful resolutions. Okay, an introduction of a resolution. Any proposed written resolution may be introduced only by a member of the board, and the clerk or chairperson shall not receive or file any resolution that is not reduced to writing and signed by at least 2 members of the board. Do you want me to read Putnam County's? Or have you already read that one?
Never read that one.
Okay, I have no problem with that. Anybody have anything you want to change on that one?
No, I don't, I think it's clear enough.
Okay, author. I don't believe Putnam County does author, tells you who the author is. A resolution may have as many signatures as there are members of the board. However, the first 2 signatures on the resolution shall be deemed the authors for the purpose of debate.
I don't know that that's ever came up.
Well, I know that we have to have 2 signatures on a resolution.
Right, but I don't know that that's ever came up, who the author was or anything of it very
And you
often.
know, some resolutions like proclaiming the day to be Carl Bolden Day.
Yeah.
You know, you have to, you might have 24 commissioners on that resolution, right?
Yeah, Carl E.
Okay. Leave that, is everybody okay with that one? Now let's go down to roll call vote. Okay. Resolution shall be put to the board for a roll call vote by the clerk. Each member shall vote yes or no on its passage when the clerk calls their name.
I don't think Cookville even addresses that either, do they?
No, that's it.
Well, right here they go.
7B. Excuse me. Same thing.
A common one used is pass as well. Do we need to define pass as a no?
It's understood.
And under Robert's Rules of Order, it is, and we reference that we reference Robert's Rules of Order. But I think in training purposes and educational purposes, it would be a good idea to have it on there.
Defined as considered a no.
It's considered a no vote.
Carlene, one of the things that I've noticed here on resolutions with Putnam County, and we do this, we practice this, but it's not for the introduction purposes. For the resolution is, and the wording is really similar, but resolutions should be presented in writing, preferably in advance of the meeting, which we do that. Resolutions and memorials simply in accommodation may be presented to the board in written or verbal form. That may be a little bit too much to absorb, but basically it's the same language that we have. The only difference is it's just making a statement that it will be preferably. Of course, when you say preferably, that's opened up to you could or couldn't.
I think ours is a little plainer on that, where it has to be in written form instead of putting are you talking about putting the verbal form in there?
Well, I was looking at 6B under resolutions in Putnam County when it said the resolution should be presented in writing, preferably in advance of the meeting. That was
Preferably is a good thing, but just say someone extremely important in your community dies on Sunday, and your county executive is working hard to get this resolution made so the recognition can be done, because you don't have another meeting for another month, and And
Well,
it's-
it does, it
yeah.
actually relates to that too. It says that resolution can be made in written
Yeah.
or verbal. But that's,
So
that's
that would
fine.
allow that to happen if you expanded.
I have a question, and I don't mean to interject, but to Robert's point, when he's asking or talking about due notice and letting the rest of the commission know about a resolution before it comes, I think it certainly should be where anytime money is gonna come into play, because certainly for this very particular committee, to me, that was sprung, I didn't know that was coming, and we voted on it from the floor, and you have a money, now we have to find money in the budget, and it happened on the fly in a meeting, to form this committee, this very committee, without appropriation of funds. So I'm wondering where the error is in that if a resolution is supposed to come before and have due notice, we did not get due notice for that, and now we've got to find the money for paying fine bills.
Yeah, according to Charles Curtis, we didn't need due notice for that.
Of all the things I should think that we would need for when.
It wasn't required, it just required a motion.
I think she's suggesting.
But it's going to be a resolution.
It's about half of
But,
it.
and all I'm saying is he said it could be in the form of a motion or a resolution. That's all I'm simply restating what he stated.
Well, then maybe
She's
that's
stating
something
the
we need
money's
to take up here, where money
Yeah.
is concerned, and you're gonna have to pay out because it's not in the budget. That's my point.
It's a good point.
Yeah, it's very.
You're right, because money is being,
Well, none of the committee's pay was in the budget. It was
That's true.
It was passed without any money in the budget
But
for
now
any
there's
of the
extra
committees.
needed for this.
but there was a resolution that night to address the money to add the money in the budget.
But
for
when the
committees.
budget was passed, it was not in
Right.
there.
So now, but her point, she's raised a good point. We passed it was a motion though, it wasn't a
Right.
resolution.
Right.
It was a motion, and that did address financial expenditures.
Right.
And it was not presented earlier. And we can put that in there if we want to, in advance, especially if it requires monies to be spent.
I think that should
For the
be
future.
brought up too in the motion, that forming a new committee is going to cost more.
Would that fall under the same thing, statutory law? As far as appropriations of funds? If it-
Well-
that's state money, that.
You know,
that
I'm
would
so
count.
sorry, and I think
That's
that's
okay.
something that should be where money is considered. It has to go back through committee to make sure that it's
Yes.
done right, instead of it just being done on the fly, because now the citizens are having to pay for something, and it didn't even go through committee or budget or anything, and there's monies that have to be allotted now. And I think where monies are concerned, we need to have a
So
little
what,
warning.
just to clarify, what you're saying is that where money is going to be spent, it should go through committee?
At least announce it to the committee.
I agree with that.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree with that
It didn't
statement.
night. Just where monies are concerned.
Yeah.
I think we would be wise to make sure that we have it and where it's going.
I think it should always go through committee, like you're saying.
So you're saying a safeguard against this happening again?
Sure.
It should be written in the.
Or just some sort of protocol, not
Yeah.
some sort of protocol when we need to spend money. Thank you.
Where would you put that in?
Okay, I
Yeah,
think then
that's
we
my
should
question.
go back to taking 6B, resolution
Yeah, somebody bring it later.
from Putnam counties,
Where did we,
Oh, okay.
where did we put that in?
and add the sentence, after resolution should be presented in writing, preferably in advance of the meeting. All resolutions requiring
Additional revenues.
expenditures must be,
Anything that's requiring unapportioned expenditures.
shall
Have
go
to
through
go
committee
committee.
prior to going to the full commission to be voted on.
We're adding that to 6B.
Yeah, it's taking Putnam County's 6B and removing Warren County's number 1, introduction, using their verbiage and adding that sentence into it.
6B plus. Are we doing that after resolutions of memorials and sympathy, or putting that before?
The sentence about that? I would say before, because it's that,
Monetary.
because it's the monetary one.
Okay.
And then the resolutions of memorial, sympathy, and commendations may be presented to the board in written or verbal form. And if it's a memorial that's not gonna cost us any money, that one can still come up at the last minute.
But they're not saying it has to be in advance, they're saying preferably.
Oh, my words were has to be.
Oh, you need to put a time frame on that, 1 week, 2 week, 10 days.
We'd have to go through a committee, and then everything that goes on the docket for our board meetings has to be
So,
7 days or,
okay.
Would that go through budget and finance, financial advisory,
I would say,
policy and personnel?
if it's already in the budget, it doesn't have to go back through budget and finance. It's passed through a committee.
But see, that didn't come in on a resolution, though, they're putting in a 6B as a resolution, it was as a motion. It was passed
Oh,
as a
you talking about
motion.
this motion here?
What happened when this committee was formed, it was through a motion, not through a resolution. You're addressing a resolution, but you're not addressing a motion.
Why don't you make it that a motion can't cause you to spend money that's not appropriated?
Well, that's kind of understood, but
But this did happen.
we
It
did
still
it anyway,
happens.
didn't we?
Well, there's been a lot more than that going on, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Oh,
Okay, so we need to
People
fix
get
both,
raises before
resolutions
money's
as well as the
appropriated,
motions,
too,
since
so.
we have them separated.
Let's please reread resolution 6B for me, that sentence we're adding. Any resolution, correct?
That kind of takes it out of the resolution, puts it right back into the motion scenario.
Could you word it as any resolution or motion causing expenditures?
Well, that's already stated in the resolution. Resolutions are used when required by state statute or when details need to be specifically stated. Of course, that
Charles said it didn't have to be, didn't he?
Right.
So, it didn't take in consideration that there would be money used out of the budget to
Right.
compensate the committee.
Right.
So is this what we're stating on resolution? Any resolution pertaining to monetary funds must be passed through committee and approved for appropriations before passage.
Well, that's already, when
Already have that.
making reference to state funds, that's already in there. Now, this would be local or county funds.
Okay.
There is a difference. Because, I mean, anytime we do a transfer of funds or whatever, I mean, we have to have a resolution to do that.
We could call Charles, just ask him our question.
Okay.
Let's do that.
So, are you gonna make it where we have to have due notice, like this can't just be sprung up like it was? There will have to be due notice.
There was
to all
nothing
of us.
sprung up. It was discussed with Charles. He recommended it, just like
One of our commissioners. I
just like he
think.
spoke. Well, he's
Let
over
him- he's on the
CTAS.
telephone. Let him make his call, if you don't mind.
Hello.
Hey, Charles, it's Joseph Stotts. Hey, and
Yes, sir.
we're calling you right in the middle of a committee meeting.
Okay.
And we've got a question for you. You got a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell him he's on speakerphone.
You're on speakerphone, thank you.
Okay.
Carlene, would you like to ask him the question?
Okay.
Carlene's gonna ask you a question, okay?
All right.
Mr. Curtis, we are actually going through the section that is discussing procedures for motions and procedures for resolutions.
Yes, ma'am.
And if a motion comes up from the floor that is not on the docket, and it's going to require use of monies out of our budget, but it has not been a budgeted item, we are questioning, is that something that can be done right there at that meeting, or should it have already gone through committee first? And what we're pertaining to actually is the creation of this committee. You know, the legislative committee was created by motion at our meeting, and it actually is now a standing committee, and it is to be, the commissioners are reimbursed for a meeting in doing this every time, and that was spending of money, but it was not actually in the, there's budget, it wasn't in the budget.
Right.
Should it have, did we follow proper procedures there, or should we have had this done in advance?
Well, in reality, some counties, I'm looking at Blunt County's rules right now, and they've got a planning committee that meets maybe a week before the commission meets, and they set the agenda. And they say that their general rule is nothing can come up except what they put on the agenda. And in reality, a regular scheduled meeting, anything should be able to come up. A lot of counties are going to these planning committees and trying to restrict it. But if you put that in your rules, you're going to get your throat cut eventually. There's going to be something happen that has to happen. And then you got to have a 2/3 vote to suspend the rule. You can't get your 2/3 vote because there's a rift or something. But just like what y'all did the other night, appointing that committee, you're not appropriating the money for it, but the monies that the committees are being paid out of is still flush with cash. But before the end of the fiscal year, you're going to have to amend it and appropriate more money to offset the cost of this committee that you're chair of. But you can put in your rules how you want to address that. That if you're going to do that, there has to be an appropriation on the front end. That's what y'all like to do. You just got to be careful about that because you'll end up in a situation you can't get beyond. But it wouldn't hurt you to wait another month to vote on this committee in reality.
Good point.
Okay, well, anybody other questions? Well, thank you very much. We may call you back.
Well, that's fine. Y'all call me anytime, Carly. And later on, when you get closer to the end, I'd like to come and sit with you. I mean, just sit there in case you need support. But I like to review what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir.
I'll be tickled to do it. But you call me anytime y'all need me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Charlie.
What he's saying is you don't want to restrict the commission too much.
Correct.
But he also said that it should have been put on the agenda at the time.
He said it could have been.
He said it could have been.
Would have been a good idea.
He didn't say it should have been.
He
He
said
said
it
it
would
could
have been
have
a good idea.
been. But
If we're gonna be
it could have been. You might not want to restrict it too much because he said you might get in a bind on something that you needed to get done and you couldn't get the funds appropriated for it. We're not talking about a huge amount of money on this committee. And then you got some committees that never meet. I'm on one that's only had one meeting, and that was to decide when we were gonna meet. So, nevertheless,
That's gonna make history.
that, you can take money out of that committee and use it here, and you're in good shape.
Okay, so, moving forward, is what we're supposed to be doing here, moving forward. I would think it's a good idea to have any motions that are gonna require expenditures of money, if it's not in the budget, should have gone through a committee. But, and in this case, there was money in,
There's available resources.
there was money to do this. It wasn't like we were spending money that was unobtainable, or we were gonna have to really go back and do some major amending. So how do y'all feel? Do you want to put that in there? Or?
Well, I think we need to give it some consideration before we come up with the language as to exactly how to address this. I'm not taking anything away from what you're saying, Christie, whatsoever. I think it's a very, very valid You know, the idea of having a planning committee to plan your docket for you.
That's what the chairman is doing though.
Right.
Is doing the agenda. I would stay away from the planning committee on the agenda, because now you're creating another committee.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what Charles was alluding to
But,
out of Blount County, but.
You could word it in a way to where, I don't know exactly how, but you can think about this, word it in a way, and it would cover what she's saying. If a motion is brought up that requires money that's not budgeted, it can be put off until the next meeting or whatever. Can be. And that way, if it's something that doesn't have to be done immediately then, it could be, if it's something that's really important and we need to address it tonight, we have to address this tonight. We do not have funds, but we know we can pull it out of the general fund balance or whatever and put it over here and cover this, whatnot. But, we don't have time for that, and then that way, if you put can be, and if it's something that is not just critical, then you can put it off to the following meeting.
That's a good compromise.
Something like that, and it would cover what she's
He
saying.
even said that, he said,
And-
wouldn't have hurt to wait another month.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Now he's, Mr. Curtis.
Yeah, I agree with you and what he said.
Well, it was definitely not, there's budgeted money for committee meetings.
Well, when we started
To
this
buy a
committee,
vehicle to drive us around
the
town.
month before
and that's
September,
unbudgeted.
when we started this, we
Financial
thought this
director
was a
said that.
binding document too at that time.
Absolutely.
You say that was one reason that we
Absolutely.
thought this was a rush, because we thought this was a binding document. We didn't find out until last week that it wasn't
That's
binding,
true.
you know? So,
And then you have to look at also, I think the language is important, just like what you, I mean, that sounded pretty good to me, Carl. But, you know, this is really a very special circumstance because it's a critical need, as we all are aware of, that we have this complete, as timely as possible, but you can see why it takes so long to go through this, because we want to make it right, and there's still going to be changes. You have to look and see, when has a scenario came up before in the past with the court to make a decision like this, to assemble a committee and have to pay them, obviously, for a standing committee. I don't know how often that has happened before, and this may be an isolated instance, or it may not be, but, you know.
It hasn't happened during my term.
That being said,
All right, let's go
other
back.
things that could come up possibly that will have to have money spent on them, unless it's emergency or critical need. I think it's important to put the language in here.
I do too.
I think after 1 year of doing this, you'll pull the bugs out of it.
1 year.
Yeah, you'll pull some bugs out of it after 1 year.
Yeah, these things will come.
Okay,
up.
so back to,
It'll come
we're
up.
using 6B in place of
Any
1.
problem will show up.
And we're now agreeing that we need to put the language in there about resolutions that require unbudgeted expenditures.
We may want to
Let's-
work on how we word that
Yeah.
next
Let's do that.
meeting.
Okay.
Like, I'm making a note and everybody kind of, okay, here's how this
We
is to
we
be
know we
worded.
were going to add the unbudgeted expenditures,
Need to work on the wording.
yes.
Yeah, I think
But the last thing Warren County needs to do is establish another committee, a planning committee.
Right,
They
but the
not need to
thing
do
is,
that.
you go home.
In my
and-
opinion.
You go home and somebody comes up with
Yes.
some good wording and stuff, we don't take a lot of time here, you can do it. you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
We can
Yeah, because,
revisit that.
you know, here we are, an hour into our meeting, and we have not covered much ground again. But, you know,
That's totally normal for what we're doing.
right. Well, I'm not complaining here, I'm just stating,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
very normal.
I think to maybe
He's actually mad
streamline
about
the,
it, can't you tell?
Yeah.
to streamline the process, is we absorb all this information and then go back
Okay.
and try to hash this out and then come back to it and say, and then everybody have an
Be a
idea
little
as how
quicker.
the wording's gonna be, but anyway.
Now we can go back to 3 where we was thinking about putting in pass means no.
Under roll calls?
Yes,
Okay.
right.
I think it at least needs to be
Add
stated.
yes or no or pass, which represents no or. Sometimes people pass to be polite instead of saying no when they're out of votes. Like if you're voting and you got 5 yes votes and stuff, and there's somebody and you don't want to just say no, you say pass, and it's a little gentler, you know.
Wasn't that mentioned in one of the meetings that pass meant no?
Well, it may have been stated,
It's
but
just, it's been stated verbally, but it's not in our
Okay.
here.
When I first became a commissioner and I heard people saying that, I thought, what does that mean? So
sometimes they'll say pass because maybe they feel like they have a
Makes sense.
conflict.
It makes sense,
Well,
But most of the time, it's to save a vote that,
Yeah.
right?
it's, when it's a single motion or a single resolution that you're voting on, a pass is a no. But when you are voting on multiple appointees for a committee, you pass because you know where you want your 5 votes to go.
Exactly.
So a pass there does not mean no. It
Well,
means that you're not voting at that time.
it still means no. You
But
didn't give that
yes.
person a
It
yes.
doesn't
Yes.
count as a
A
yes.
pass is a no, is a no, is a no, yes.
Yes.
But you still get to vote later on, because you can only have 5 yeses.
Right. Well,
Or
the
so
ye-
many yeses.
And the yes votes is the only thing that actually counts. It doesn't matter how many no and how many
It doesn't matter what
passes,
you
how
say, if
many
you don't say
yes.
yes, it doesn't pass.
Exactly.
Can I
The
tell y'all
pass must be
something? The
determined now.
first night I said that,
No, let's get back to this,
sorry, I
okay?
was just gonna
That's okay.
say,
Um,
it's confusing.
I know, it is
And
confusing.
we're gonna try to clean that up.
What,
The confusion.
The roll call vote?
Each member shall vote yes, no, or pass.
Okay.
Does anybody want to state it out loud so Daniel can write it down?
Oh, I just sort of,
You did?
yeah, I sort of put that.
Should we,
All right.
should we also
I
add
think
in
you did
language
that.
that a
Things like
pass
that.
on a multiple appointee does not,
I don't think you need to state that. That's just my opinion. But I know what you're saying, but I don't think we have to cover every little corner
Okay,
on something like that. But that's just opinion. That and $1.50 would buy you a cold drink.
so you're saying each member shall vote yes or no, or pass? Is that what you're saying?
That's what you said.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I was reading the next one.
okay.
Okay.
On number 4, changing of the vote. Okay, and that's 7C on Putnam County's.
I feel like the first line contradicts itself further down.
On ours,
Yes.
any member of the board may change his vote before the results of a roll call is announced by the clerk.
Then down here it says also if anyone who has voted wishes to change their vote. I don't think you should be able to change it until after the clerk announces.
It shall
anyone
be,
on.
the duty of the clerk at the end of each roll call to inquire of those who passed or were absent when the roll was called if they desire to vote.
You know what I'm
Also, if
saying?
anyone says.
First sentence seems like it's in the wrong.
Well,
Well,
what
the first
it
sentence states it, and the sentences after that
explains
explain
it.
Yeah.
That's,
Well,
It
that's
shall be
fine,
the-
but they need to be right next to each other, not.
It shall be the duty of the clerk at the end of each roll call to inquire of those who passed or were absent when the roll call was called if they desire to vote. Also, if anyone who has voted wished to change their vote, then the
What-
results shall be announced by the clerk.
yeah, the first part says, that they may change their vote before the, results is announced. And then it says how the clerk goes about doing it. I don't, it is right together. I mean, I don't know what you're saying
Well, it
exactly.
just felt like it was a little farther away.
Because it's drawed out.
Yeah. I had to reread the indeed and see what they were meaning at first.
Well, yeah, it's one of them, but it's on the same subject, but it's, I think it's just telling how the clerk goes about doing it.
But
Then the
that-
results shall be announced by the clerk.
Right, and so after she says, does anyone want to change your vote?
And it says if anyone is absent, so if somebody comes in after their name was called, we've never had that happen that I know of, but it says, to inquire of those who passed, okay, or were absent. Like if somebody says pass, you get the opportunity to change that, I guess. But
Yes.
that would be the same question as anyone wish. But it says if you're absent, like if I came into the meeting late and it had done passed my name, then I would be allowed to vote. Like before the results was announced, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
I
the
don't know
results
that-
are announced and it's done.
Yeah.
It's over with, right?
Right, okay.
But it
I think-
says that here, so,
Yeah.
I mean, if it ever happened, I've never seen it happen where anybody came in after it done passed their name anyway, so.
You don't have your copy with you?
No, I wouldn't.
That's okay, I just realized that didn't have one. You can borrow this one.
I do have one, I just didn't think to grab it, thank you.
Okay.
I printed it
Are y'all
out.
good to leave that one as it is then?
It's fine.
Okay.
Yes.
It's just working.
Now we're at a motion to reconsider.
We probably need it.
Yeah. We're gonna take a 5-minute break to reconsider. Ours says the chairperson shall then announce that without objection, a motion to reconsider will go to the table. Over here on Putnam County says, when a question has been put to a vote, it shall be in order for any member of the prevailing side to move reconsideration. However, a 2/3 vote of the members present shall be required for reconsideration of a question. I'm not real clear on exactly what that means, to be honest with you. Because with the tabling of a motion, this one says when it, without objection, a motion to reconsider will go to the table. This
If
one-
something gets voted down and somebody wants to bring it up for reconsideration, and the chairman announces that it will go to table, it just automatically comes back up in the next month's meeting, is that correct? Or no?
I thought we discussed earlier it had to be brought.
That was a motion that had been tabled, but, for reconsideration, I'm not certain, that's what I'm asking. Does that mean?
I think a reconsideration comes right back up in the same meeting. A table one comes up at the next meeting.
You're saying you turn around and vote on it a
And
second
says,
time?
we voted on this, but I would like I want to reconsider what we have just done. We've just sat here and conducted business and voted on it, but I'd like a reconsideration. And so for it to be brought back up in the same meeting, to be re-voted on, you have to have 2/3 of a vote to reconsider the question.
I've never seen it happen, so I don't know. But right here, it does say at one session.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
titled.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, their title does say at one session, ours doesn't, but I read theirs and it says at one session, so you're correct, I'm sure.
So
I've never seen
we
it
would just-
happen
I
where
would say
anybody
we would
reads.
use their words. And I think that's actually, in this day and time, when you've got tablets and things, somebody could actually be doing some research on something and find out some information that could have changed the results of the vote. And now they're gonna bring that back up and say, I need to reconsider this because I don't think that all of you knew that this was pertained to the situation. And then you have to vote on whether you're gonna bring that back up or not. And if it passes, then you reconsider that motion again at that same meeting.
Well, when we made an amendment to the resolution last meeting and Tommy Savage brought up the amount of tax revenue that the Warren Arts was contributing to the county, there's a perfect example of what you just said.
Had it failed.
He brought in,
Yeah.
Had it failed, it could have brought.
he brought in additional information that contributed to the decision making.
Right, absolutely. Well, I mean, Prater was hinging on the, well, I mean, he
He
brought up
asked.
a very good
He
question
asked.
about that, and
He asked how many tax dollars are we talking about, and Tommy looked it up and said $570, I believe it was,
right.
I believe we should change the heading of ours.
to one session.
Or do you want to just
Oh,
adopt?
use theirs, the reconsideration of a motion at one session?
I believe so. That way it would be a little more.
It's plainer.
convenient.
So you're saying you want to adopt Putnam County's,
I'm
Yeah.
fine with the
Language.
wording myself.
Let's use, you okay with using Putnam County's whole section there? A reconsideration of a motion at one session?
The other title.
Title for sure, that helps.
Okay. Y'all good with that?
So we're replacing 5 with
6.
6E title, the title right now, that's all he suggested, wasn't it? Or
No, the
whole
wording,
thing?
I was.
The wording too?
Title
Okay.
and wording.
I mean, it sums it up a little bit more than what
All
ours
right,
has.
and wording, okay.
So that has to be the chairperson that does that?
No,
Well, the chairperson is going to
Well, he'll-
announce without objection that a motion to reconsider has been made.
Okay,
So, but
okay.
anybody from the prevailing side can move to reconsider.
Okay.
But once again, the chairperson has to announce. We've had a motion to reconsider the motion.
2/3 have to agree to do it though, in Putnam's.
Okay.
2/3 vote of the members present shall be required for a reconsideration of a question.
And I am sure that that's a Robert's Rule of Order number.
Well, that's a good idea too.
Okay. All right, you good with that, Daniel?
Yes.
Okay, now to number 6, which is successful resolutions. All successful resolutions shall be submitted to the chairperson for his signature and attested by the signature of the clerk. The resolution, along with the vote of the members, shall then be submitted to the county executive within 5 days of its passage for his consideration.
I don't see anything wrong with that. Pretty cut and dry, isn't it?
Okay?
Accepting that?
I think so.
Unless you want to state who submits it. I believe that'd be the only thing we left out.
I think it's okay.
Sufficient.
Let's see that one. Okay, rule number 7. But before we leave, okay. Rule number 7 is elections and appointments. In Putnam Counties, that's rule number 8, elections. Boy, they, okay.
Oh, okay. There it is.
Rule number 7, elections and appointments. Number 1, elections and nominations from the floor. When the chairperson is to receive nominations from the floor, a member may nominate only one person. The floor will be kept open until every member has had an opportunity to make nominations or until a motion has been made and seconded that nominations cease and a majority of those present so vote.
That's a roll call vote.
Yeah, elections are, yes.
Let's go to the next one. Appointments and confirmations. When the board is called upon to appoint someone from a list of nominees, such as a county medical examiner, or to confirm an appointment of the county executive, such as a department head, then the name or names of those being considered for the position shall be read to the membership, and discussion of each such appointee shall follow.
We haven't followed that.
That was on that paper that was on Monday night on our thing, listed the department heads that he hires and stuff like for the adoption center and stuff. We were actually supposed to vote on that before.
Yeah, that's TCA code 5-5-106. And that
That's
is
in this. I think I
specifically
said it out. No, it's in this maybe.
part C.
I did set it out. I did read that though.
Yeah, it's a TCA code. We've not been following it. Those department heads have been appointed without the collective body making any decisions on those.
That's been done since Carlene, do you remember it being ever followed? I don't either.
Every county executive has had the right to fire and
Well,
to hire and fire
certain
their
ones.
department heads.
Yeah.
And and just inform the commissioners of who they are.
It was done out of not knowing. It wasn't done purposely, I don't think. It was done because they didn't know.
Well, it doesn't say anything about voting. It says just discussion.
Right.
There's nothing about voting on it. It just says that they need to tell us who they are. And they always have done that. Introduce them and.
I thought it said that they had to be approved.
It does say such appointee shall be subject to confirmation by the county legislative body.
I think it's supposed to be, I thought it said approved by 2/3 of the majority or something.
It's not in this language.
Is that what is on the, what are you looking at?
Election and appointments.
Oh, yeah, but it was on that TCA code.
And this
okay.
this doesn't really infer in any way that the legislative body has to be involved in, like you mentioned, hiring and firing. It's really not referring to that. It's just referring on confirmation on a decision that's been made by the executive. You know, presented to the body like, this is who I'm recommending to be voted on or to be approved by the elected
Does
body.
it say?
Right, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Does it say
doesn't
that
have
they
anything-
vote on it or no?
Well,
It says approved.
Approved, so that would be a yay or nay probably, right?
Right.
well, right here in this language, I think I'm just repeating what you said.
Right.
When the board is called upon
Right.
to appoint someone from a list of nominees,
Right. Right.
that doesn't state it has to be protocol. It's only when they're called,
Yeah,
which
so-
we do that on occasion, just like the IDP board.
When we hired one of the medical examiners while I was on the safety committee, we gave our recommendation to the county executive, and then he actually hired the one we recommended, but that's how it was done. But in the safety committee recommended, we did the interviews with him, whatever, and then he hired him, but I don't remember. I think it just came and he announced it to the full commission. I don't think we ever said yay or nay. I don't remember. Do you want a medical examiner, Carleen? I think he just told us who it was gonna be. I don't think, the full commission, right? Or did we say yay or nay?
We did not vote on that. He appointed it.
So we need to change the appointments and confirmations.
Yeah.
We need to change it to the TCA code.
It needs to follow the TCA codes. That's going to trump anything.
You can't change them with your local laws. There's some stuff you can, like you can change Robert's Rule of Orders to fit your needs and whatnot because it's not binding, but those codes there will be binding.
Well, let's,
It doesn't change a whole lot, it just, you have to do an A or nay vote, and then if somebody says nay, then if 3 people want a roll call, you do the roll call, and then if 2/3, it passes anyway, so.
Why
Well,
don't
now-
you check with the county attorney about that one?
About what part of it?
About, I get conflicting stories of people being interviewed in committees versus the county executive has the right to hire.
In the past, I think what's happened, and I've spoken to some past county executives, is that what they've done is they have, out of respect for commissioners, they have tried to communicate, involve commissioners in the process. The commissioners have in no way made the final decision like Carl just alluded to. It's just that there's been a communication process that's actually existed to where then people know kind of the direction it's going in, and then when it's presented, nobody's just ghosted by the fact that it just occurred.
I think that's a
But
good idea.
there's been no like, to where a commissioner, signed off, like someone's saying they're making the approval, or they're hiring or firing. There's just been a communicated process that's existed.
Yeah. No,
But I want to tell you, for 4 years prior to this term, nobody went anywhere. It was, the only people that were changing jobs was the person who was terminated, and then the judicial commissioners, and they changed jobs like every 3 months. Everybody else had been there for 30 and 40 years, and until people started retiring or started having issues.
But when it did happen though, it did go through committee and they, everybody kind of knew who was up for it and stuff like that. That's what he was saying.
I remember Tommy Savage saying at a meeting though, there were news reporters there were people videoing it during an interview. Committee member, 5 committee members plus the county executive. And he said, you know, really the county executive has the right to do all that interview, and that it made the people being interviewed very uncomfortable.
I don't remember, I don't know what that was. I don't remember anybody ever videotaping or nothing, the interviews.
I'm just saying what Tommy said, I wasn't there.
Oh, that, Mr. Wiltshire did.
Oh,
Can we go ahead and do this as far as researching this TCA?
Well, also, hang on, there was an extensive interview process for our finance director, and a special committee was set for that.
they was.
That one was handled a little differently.
But that was under past administration.
But it was also open to the public, which is not a great way to,
Well, when you're interviewing somebody like that, sometimes that's a little
not a
bit,
great way to,
So what were you saying, Robert?
Well, you know, without pulling that up on the file to see what the 5-5-106 Part C of the TCA, you know,
does it allude to it in this one? Is that,
well, I mean, Joseph said that, and I think it's a good idea that we need to be in compliance with this specific one for that particular line item on elections. And
yeah, we need to
appointments.
word it the way the TCA codes
Yeah.
is what we need to do.
on number 1,
Number two.
Number two.
Two.
We need to look at the code, and we all have that
We
on.
have a copy of it right here.
Yeah.
And it says that,
Okay.
except as otherwise provided by general law or special or private act, the county mayor shall appoint members of county boards and commissions and county department heads. Such appointees shall be subject to confirmation of the county legislative body, and in so doing, the legislative body may express its views fully and freely and shall vote for one or against confirmation. The legislative body shall not seek or interview such prospective employees prior to their appointment. Such appointment and confirmation are not applicable to employees appointed by other elected officials.
So you're referring to the state-held offices like county court clerk and
Yeah.
elected?
Nobody elected, it's the
Right.
ones that are non-elected.
Right.
Well.
Non-elected, not elected.
appointed only.
Huh?
She was reading a little, appointed only.
Yeah, it's just the ones that are, it's, like,
And it just says for
Sanitation.
confirmation, it doesn't say that you have to be involved in
wasn't
any
appointed.
selection
right,
process,
that's
interview
what,
process.
but he was.
It doesn't. I think that's just, I think that's just like Deborah brought up, and Carl, I think that's just an assumed courtesy. But it's not, like you said, it's not in there that has to be done.
So how would we change that? That's a lot of words to.
And the codes guy, I guess. Those type of people. They're not elected, but they're department heads.
Cunningham.
I guess maybe. He's been the one, I don't know, he's been in forever.
Which one?
Cunningham.
Mr. Cunningham, Jim Cunningham, is he appointed by the
Okay,
county executive? too?
what,
Mr. Cunningham, is he appointed by the county, is he one that the county executive, I guess? Or
yes, he's not.
What's his position?
he is the.
EMS.
EMA, yeah. But now, he may be hired by the emergency, he may be, the EMA may have their own, do they have a board?
Yeah, it's self-funded.
So do they hire him, or does the county executive appoint that position?
County executive
He
appoints.
does appoint that position too?
But that, if I'm not
This
mistaken,
doesn't
probably
here,
90% of those
doesn't
funds
lay
are
out
federal.
who the individuals are, but it does, even when the election and confirmation, number 3 says, if the vote is on confirmation of an appointee, each member will vote yes or no on the confirmation of the majority.
Nothing changes except for the confirmation process
Right.
of what we've done in the past.
All we're saying is you want to make this more detailed.
Well, you need to explain the TCA codes so that you don't have to go look it up. Like Robert said, you don't want to have to go refer to the TCA codes and then not have them written out there. You would want to have the codes. And that's all you'd have to do is add the codes
We
in
could add
there.
number 5 and say that all elections and appointments are to follow the Tennessee Code 5-6-106.
You can do that, and then you're gonna have to, somebody's gonna have to spell it out to everybody every time.
We'll have that educational process like you were
Well-
talking about.
Well, you could do that, actually, as long as the county executive knows that rule and the commissioners know that rule, every time it happens, they would know it's a due process anyway. You could just put that in there, the code, and that would save a lot of,
Put the
And
code
then- and you
itself
could-
in there?
Right.
Instead of just referring
And then
to
you
it?
Right.
you reference it to
or
attachment.
no,
into
what she
attachment.
said,
Just referencing.
reference
yeah,
to it, and
okay.
then you look at the code, and then, but like you said, when you
And have
explaining all this,
attachments.
have an educational thing and say, this is how it's done.
Right. Well, now, as far as
But
this
you can
language.
include the entire code if you wanted to.
Right. Well, I mean,
I think I would,
But as an attachment,
yeah.
I wouldn't put it, I wouldn't.
You could do that as an attachment, yes.
so.
As reference.
It
to
would
attachment.
be a quick reference guide.
Right.
Educate me as to the difference between our language, other than the fact that there is a lot more language. What are the main talking points that we're not in compliance with?
Do what?
What are the main talking points that we are not in compliance with according to Tennessee Code?
The confirmation of the department heads
Okay.
by the legislative body.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm not for certain that's been ever followed, really.
Okay.
Not pointing any fingers at anyone, just saying it.
I don't think that it has definitely not been done in the past, but I'm not 100% sure that it absolutely has to be done that way. I
think so.
I think that's a question for, again, from Mr. Curtis.
The TCA codes, I think you're supposed to follow those, aren't you?
Well, it says consideration.
But I would think,
It
just an
doesn't
idea
say
would
it's
be,
required,
Well,
it says
I mean,
consideration.
even if it says
What's
consider.
that code number?
It's 5-6-106, and it's section C.
What
Well,
would happen if the board did not confirm something?
5-6-106, section C.
It doesn't. But I would just think that, if we're talking about transparency, why would you not want your legislative body to be on board with what you're presenting? That just creates a barrier. I'm not saying I'm just saying that it's only a good thing, it only creates, facilitates
We've sat here and beat
communication.
this horse to death, and I read number 3, I don't think nobody read ahead.
We're at.
For election or confirmation, all ballots for election or confirmation shall be cast by roll call, as each member's name is called by the clerk if the vote is on confirmation of an appointee. Each member shall vote either yes or no on the confirmation. A majority of the membership of the full board is required for election or confirmation.
So it's already there.
It's already there. We just got through
Yeah.
beating that horse to death.
But we still haven't followed it, but it's there.
Right, it's there.
Yeah,
The TCA code is spelled out in number 3.
pretty much, yeah.
And then it even says what happens if.
It doesn't say it's a TCA code, but it
No,
is.
but that's where it's lifted from. You can easily tell.
Right. But I never thought to read the next paragraph. Yeah, we're gonna have to start making a cappuccino stoppers up there. I think that Lisa should provide us with coffee.
Okay.
So that does kind of cover it, Carlene. We can read that code kind of and make sure that that's the way we want to leave it, but it actually covers it pretty well, I think.
Yeah. So do we want to leave 2 and 3 as is?
Let's look at it just a second.
May I ask you a question before, I'm not being smart aleck. You brought up a point earlier, it says when the board is called upon. Doesn't say anybody has to.
Well, that's the same language that's in the code too.
But if he so chooses.
I think that's just, I don't think it means that. I think it's just verbiage of like when he presents the, ever who he's gonna hire or appoint. I think it's just verbiage is, when he does that,
Okay.
I don't think it means when or if, or it would say if, it meant he didn't have to, yeah. I
When he
think,
has to hire, when he has
right,
to.
yeah, I think when he has to do it. I think it's just verbiage of,
No, you're
Okay,
correct.
I'm following. Okay.
I still have that question about a department head if they're not confirmed by the majority.
well, you would have to go back and you'd have to have more discussion and.
And like Joseph said,
And
if it
boy,
was all
what you would
talked
do
about
is, then you would have discussion and say, okay, this is why I voted no, this is why I voted yes. And it might be, and during discussion, I have actually changed my mind. I have said, this is the way I feel about something, and then somebody bring up a point that I hadn't thought about.
Right.
So in discussion, you're either gonna have more people decide, no, I don't want this person, or yes, I do want this person. And then, if it comes down to where, after the second vote, it's just, you go find someone else to do that job. I don't think that's necessarily gonna happen, it's just there for,
And you don't want to have these kinds of discussions at a county commission meeting. These are personnel discussions and.
exactly,
And.
right. So,
You've set yourself up for a lot of liability.
that's one thing too, if you hire a department head and you include the committee that's involved with that particular department, you save all these problems and, you know what I'm saying? Like if your committee's involved in the hiring process and you know who the nominees are and you have a chance to know that person's stuff, you're gonna feel better about the nomination.
The problem with that is, though, the person who's being considered to be hired may already have another job and may not want their name in a public
You don't have to
meeting.
make it public though, you can do it like,
I thought committee meetings were public.
well, they are,
Yeah,
you're right
they
about
are.
that.
She's absolutely right.
She's right about that.
Absolutely right.
Well,
I mean, I've had
so
jobs
so
where
that's
I
kind of a,
looked for another job and I didn't want my employer to know.
right, I see that, I hadn't, see, there you go, discussion, you brought up the point.
Here's another point. If you're involved with that process and you don't know if the liability issue comes up and there's something discriminatory that happens that you're not aware of because you're not privy to all that information, interviewing someone, they could take that information and use it as a liability against you personally and the committee.
Yes.
Whereas, and this is one example why an HR person would be critical to have in that situation. I think the input of the committee is very important in being part of that process, but for a committee person to actually conduct
Now, the
part of the
interviews was actually always, it was just like their credentials, this person was presented, talk to them, why do you want this job, stuff like that. The personal stuff was always left to a private interview.
Like HR.
But still, that would
Well, it
still
was
be
by
a
the
public-
county executive,
That would still
yeah.
be a public meeting where someone could record it or video it, or the public could attend.
There's not a real good answer right
Still
there,
gonna
immediately.
jeopardize the person being,
I see both sides, you know.
I do too.
Uh,
There's no way around it though if our meetings are public. You can't-
That's true, and you can't have closed meetings.
No, and you can't have a private,
So maybe the hiring process is better left alone in that way and then brought, but
But there does need to be communication.
But I
Right.
do think that once the head person has that person that they want for this job, I think it's just out of politeness, he or she should present that person to people, the board that's on it, and say, here's who I really like, HR has approved them, they've done the necessary work, what do you guys think about this?
That's a wonderful
I think
idea.
that's a good idea. too.
And in fact, I would go as far as to say that, I mean, if we
I
just.
think the recommendation should be confirmed by the committee.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
county executive,
it is what it is. I'm just going to say it. Some of the divisiveness that we have all experienced over the course of the last year, it's just been because a lot of people have felt like they have been part of the process. It's not that I don't think that they wanted to be in charge of it or anything, but if that had happened on some of those occasions, I think that would have cleared a lot of that stuff up.
But see, I'm coming from a place from where he's coming from, where we have that, and we know the law, the stipulation is, if you say the wrong thing and it gets back to that person over there and it hurts me, I'm gonna get money out of the situation. And I'm just saying that's how it is anymore.
Yeah.
You have to really know what you're crossing your T and dotting your I's,
Yeah.
really, because if names get out, if the wrong thing gets out,
Yeah.
you're really jeopardizing not only the city, but or the county, but yourself.
And
Well,
again,
what Joseph is just saying, though, that after a appointee or a hiring is conducted and interviews are done and applications are reviewed and credentials are confirmed and certifications are confirmed and background checks are confirmed, that they are presented to the committee for confirmation.
That's a good idea.
That's it.
It leaves the
That's it.
total committee out of the professional process.
Right.
But
But
certainly,
the committee could approve
it allows them
before.
to confirm that.
And
Are
you
we
can
saying
have
a vote?
something in there saying that now
Are we
we have
saying
to
a
get
vote?
it passed
No.
through the
I was
committee.
about to say,
Then you
End
got
of the commission, the whole commission.
no, you can't, you shouldn't be able to say a vote.
No.
No, because once they're hired, you can,
I think it's like Carlene said, just
It
presentation
says
of the
they have to be
individual.
confirmed.
To the committee.
The
Yeah.
code does.
Just to the
And then
committee.
the
And I think that's just
No,
a
I wouldn't take it to the commission.
process.
Pardon me?
I just wish, I would just I wouldn't do it. I think if the committee does it, that would be enough. But
I did too, but I thought that law said we had to confirm.
We need to
it's
find out
vague.
for sure.
We
Yeah.
need to find out for sure.
Well, it
And
depends.
4 answers your question on the second ballot. It's saying that if no one is elected on a given ballot, the nominee receiving the smallest number of votes will be dropped, and the vote will be taken again until a nominee is elected by the required majority of the membership. It's actually saying that the commission is the one that does the final yes or no, is what this is saying.
What is that?
We need to read the TCA code. We need to address that at our next meeting. We need to find out, get a reading from whoever you want to get a reading from and come back with it.
Mr. Curtis needs to review rule number 7 completely and the TCA code and to get that. And this question is just too complex to do this over the telephone.
Well, it's a little bit,
Because when you're talking about boards and commissions, that's one thing, but when you're talking about a department head,
One person.
well, you're talking about the privacy is the only thing you've got concerned. Hey, and 20 years ago, there was no problem with privacy.
no, you're probably right.
Yeah,
You
that
know.
has changed.
You're probably right.
Privacy only came up the last few years. 20 years ago, people rode in the back of trucks, they run with forks in their hands, and there was no privacy rules.
Had their shotguns in the back of the truck at times.
My parents told me, go outside and play, but it's dark outside, go ahead, you'll be fine.
okay. we're
Now
gonna-
you say, come
All right,
inside,
so
it's
let's-
getting dark.
Let's just leave all of number 7 alone at this
Is that not
time.
true? It's true.
Are we going
And
to,
I would like, and I'll call Mr. Curtis and
give his
actually,
judgment?
I'm asking to read number 7 completely and be prepared for the conversation point. Call him and then read. Maybe, he said he would come sometime.
Yeah,
Maybe
he
this
said,
is a
he said
good-
he would like to come.
Maybe we can get him to come
Yeah.
at our next one and we'll hash that one out, okay?
I tell you what, before you take his time up and stuff, I think you should go through the thing, have all the different things that you want to do, and go over it with him and save him, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You might go through, you might put this on, because we don't have to finish this next week before we go on to the next one. And you put a red mark beside what you want him to address, and we may find 2 or 3 more things, and then he can address them all in,
Well, he said he wanted to address it when we got a little farther along, but if we get through number 7, that's seven
He wouldn't
of
want you
the,
calling him though, would he?
I don't,
No, he wouldn't.
I don't want to call him over something this complex. He needs time to read it, read every one and
but
get
you
his thoughts
can, you
together.
can let him know about it, and then he can get back with us.
Yeah. I think
Maybe
that's a
2
good
meetings
idea.
down the road. or
Yeah,
something.
2 meetings down the road, you might have something else and have
Might
a,
have 8, 9, 10, 11 done or something like that.
exactly.
Carl, that number 7, that, number 4, under rule 7, I thought that answered, the question if the person wasn't confirmed.
It does.
But it's only talking about if there's more than one appointee, right? That wouldn't be if there was just one
No, that's
person.
like, that's
Exactly.
talking about like
However, if the committee has given their blessing,
Yeah, but like I say, 20 years ago, there was no privacy problems. Now there may be privacy problems, and you may not be able TCA may need to review their code just a little bit on the privacy
So
act.
they
I'm sure they
do.
do.
Yeah. Okay.
But, so that's why we need to
It's just-
interpret it.
it's a-
This here may be a little outdated, TCA may
That's just
cover
me,
this
though.
better.
I mean, I'm not saying that's what
Okay.
everybody and everybody
We'll,
else does.
let's get our discussion. Do y'all need to share the discussion you're having? Is that just between the two of you?
We're making reference to coming back to this right here because of the validity.
Because of the what?
Validity.
Okay. So we're going to basically take this one and get extra
Well, we've got
information.
3 of them that we're gonna look at and think about and come back and talk
Yeah.
about that I've got notes on, so.
Correct. Okay,
So
it's
far,
quarter, it's
every
quarter to 8.
Section.
And I will,
Nominating committee's pretty easy, ain't it?
no. And that one is going to,
Why?
well, that was going, I think we're going to get some different views on that one. So I really would like for you to come back with what you each one personally really think would be the best for that one.
For
At our next-
nominating?
Yes, for
I can
nominating.
tell you something right now you can chew on, if you want
But
to.
I will tell you that Christie wants to be at that one.
That's fine.
And she did make that statement, so we do know that she has left,
That's fine. Something that we had the opportunity to do, last year we had it on the financial committee. We only had it on one. We had the opportunity to integrate someone else in there. We approved the entire thing the year before. This year, when we done the committees and stuff, nobody took advantage of this, but except on the financial committee. That's the only thing we had to vote on, and I think we had 2, maybe 3 nominations, and then everybody voted. And it changed. I think actually Daniel got added onto the financial committee, and he wasn't on it originally. But we had the option of nominating on it, because he went one at a time. Blaine went one at a time. And you had the opportunity to nominate someone on the committee. And Robert, he made mention of the Budget and Finance Committee, but you could have nominated someone to be added on that, then it would have went to a vote, and you didn't nominate him.
Well, and-
But as you did, it possibly could have changed. Actually, there's a couple of people that I think was more qualified to be on that wasn't on the list. But since nobody nominated anybody, I voted to go with what the chairperson had nominated.
I didn't know.
I agree with what
You're out of order.
you said.
You're out of order because you're speaking over him.
Sorry, I
Okay.
am.
I just want to explain to you.
I agree with what you said there, and it was a conversation I had with Blaine before the night, prior to that meeting, and that was of the most critical importance to me, is that the Budget and Finance Committee would be a balanced finance committee, because we all know the importance of budget and finance. And for him, and I wasn't privy to that, and I was really taken back from that selection of the Budget and Finance. Because when you take a bank president off Budget and Finance, and you take an accounting major off Budget and Finance, and replace them with people that don't, and I'm not taking anything away from the people there. I never hold this as a personal vendetta against anybody. But if you take that financial background and experience away from Budget and Finance and replace it with very prominent individuals and great business people, I'm not taking anything away from that. To me, that was underhanded, and yes, I did have an opportunity. I didn't take the opportunity because I was overwhelmed. But also, when you look at the voting record, like I alluded to, every single one of those people except for 2 that was on there, and of course if you got 3, we all know what that means, you got that majority. Because this is all going to play itself out, because when it comes time for our budget, the things that people request, are going to be considered as a courtesy, but we're going back to the same place we were as a non-progressive body, because you know, every one of those people that were on there practically voted against all the initiatives that we had as far as budget and finance. That was my issue. That was my issue.
But what I was saying though, you had the opportunity.
You're
to fix
exactly
that.
right.
That's
You're
what I'm
exactly
saying. That was the Democratic part of it. See, anybody could have said, hey, because,
I agree with you.
and it may have changed. It may have
Well,
been one or more of the people that you thought may have got on.
Right. No, I'm not just,
Yeah,
you know,
I was
very
just saying.
rarely do I ever disagree with you, Carl, ironically, but, you know, that's exactly right. I had an opportunity to make a
And that's
nomination.
what I liked about it.
And what happened, I had a delayed reaction because I was so overwhelmed that when it came to financial advisory, I think everybody was a little bit more focused and took the initiative and an action to do that, but,
So that was the only committee that anybody,
yeah.
financial management was the only one that anybody,
No,
Tried to change.
I certainly agree with you. I mean,
The whole,
And-
the whole
and-
commission was unprepared for that entire evening as far as how things were going to go. I mean,
but the thing is he actually said that 2 or 3 times though. If you have someone you want to nominate, you can.
but don't you
Well,
think we would have been
because-
better served if we had his recommendations prior to the meeting?
We're not supposed to do that, though. We found out that.
Who's we?
We're not supposed to do that. The legislative body, excuse me, the chairman is not supposed to present his list before chair election. And apparently we never knew that.
No, we're not talking about chair. We're not talking about chair. We're talking about committee.
That's what I'm talking
Election.
about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, for example, Executive Haley presented his list before we elected chair. Now, according to Charles, that's not supposed to happen. Chair election is supposed to happen in a completely transparent manner, where you're just voting on a chair.
Right.
And then once the chair is selected, then they present a list, and then the chair.
So that you can't obtain votes because
I
you
just
took
want you
your
to
list.
know
Does that-
that in September.
Did I need to clarify on that?
If in, excuse me a second, excuse me a second. In October, if you want to revisit any committee, you can bring it back up again
Oh, okay.
in October. If there's a committee that you feel
I
strongly
think
that
that's
needs to
right.
be readdressed, I know that's right. I know that is correct.
But,
We can be brought back up
Go
and you can
ahead.
do it
but
again.
didn't you just say a few minutes ago that if Haley would have shared information with you
Ahead of time.
ahead of time, everything would have settled out better?
About hiring the.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, you're talking about the TCA code?
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, and following the
Whatever.
TCA
But I'm
code,
just
yeah.
saying, that's the same way. If those names would have been shared.
But what I'm saying is Charles Curtis said that chair election's not supposed to go in that
But somebody
direction.
must have thought this out if Charles Curtis was asked these questions.
Oh, I don't understand. Help me clarify.
Someone must have thought this out and had a lot of questions to ask Charles Curtis about, to know about these committees and stuff. I mean, think about it.
Well,
No, what Charles has simply said is that chair selection should be, your chair should be selected.
All right.
And then after your chair is selected, then the way that, of course, we have been operating is that then the chair would present a list of committees, but you wouldn't present a list first. Of course, that's how we've been doing it here for
In the past, it's been.
20
maybe
years. I don't
first.
know.
No,
I mean,
it's
how
never
long?
came in first. Well,
Last
no.
year it did.
It- Not until the chair was elected.
We
I
have
thought we
this list of,
Yeah, didn't we see it first
it
last
was in the
year?
packet.
Did we see it first?
I think we did.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. And this year too.
But it never was
Because we didn't know that he was gonna switch
prior to
places
that.
in
That
the
was only
middle.
on there with 4 years before that though.
Yeah.
I think that's another question. Dr.
Like you
Chris, about in
said,
detail.
October can all be redone again.
Or even just one.
It could be brought back up again.
Yes, it can be.
It states that you have to do it every September, but it doesn't state that you can't bring it back up again in
Right.
October or November. But you've got to remember, that is doing nothing except hurting things if you keep bringing it up, bringing it up, bringing it
It
up.
is. Oh.
It comes a time when you just need to get,
Well, that's what the guy said.
Yeah.
The guy that spoke the other night, that night, says, you gotta start working together.
well, and to bring up one or two committees and make a change to this next meeting, it's certainly acceptable. Procedure-wise, it's legal. But you wouldn't want to do it again in December and again in January, again in February. You would not have.
Here's the
progress
thing,
being
one
made.
commissioner said last year before we voted for the committee, because some people didn't like the way the committees was made up last year. You know, I don't like this right here. But one commissioner that sits where we do, he said, let's confirm his committees, give him a shot, see what he does with the people he wants in what spots. And if you don't like it next year, you can change it. And that's what happened. So I think since it's already went through, in my opinion, I'm gonna leave it the way it is. Blaine is elected chair. He has set the committees, everybody's confirmed it. Let's see what he can do with it in a year, you know, and then if not, in the next year, I don't think it's gonna be the end of the world, because everything has to be, the full commission's gonna vote on everything. He's not gonna get away with anything, or nobody is. And working together, when we get toward the end of this, we may need to put in a code of conduct for commissioners. Going on Facebook and verbally trashing people and stuff is not the
Then you're
way
gonna
to
have
do
a
it.
lawsuit for my First Amendment rights, because I know you.
I'm just saying it's not
Guess what's
the
coming?
smart thing to do.
You try
though.
that, and that's what's coming.
I'm not, but you can border on slander with some stuff you
Why you
say
let
and
a
stuff.
lawyer decide that then?
Ma'am, I'm just saying, that just keeps people in an uproar. Did I try to tell her what she was saying? I just said it's not good.
All right, let's,
First Amendment,
I think there's a huge difference between First Amendment right and accusing someone of breaking the
that's
law.
what you think, but I'm going by the law.
You know, so,
Well, we're gonna have to agree to
Just
disagree
like
on
y'all
that.
just sit there talking about how we all talk.
we all talked, I don't know what you're talking about there. Who said we?
You said we, when you
did several times.
you said we are not supposed to do that. It's like when and we, you said we're not supposed to present instead of the sheriff.
We as people.
Yeah, we as people.
We as people.
Now, he said we were talking because Daniel said, who is we?
In regards to what statement?
When you were
saying
talking about
something.
the committees.
The committee's
that-
not being presented, you said
presented,
we.
You said, when we were discussing it, we were not.
No, she didn't say we were
No, I didn't say we were
discussing. He
discussing.
said, no, he did not. He said we're not supposed to present the
We
committees
found out we
beforehand.
were not supposed to present them. That's what you
Yes.
said. We
Yeah, I think he
found
did
out.
say that, yeah.
Yeah, how
We
she
found
put it.
out.
And
We
that's
found out we're
it
not
was we.
supposed to.
But I don't think you heard, because I didn't hear you answer the question.
I didn't hear a question. What I said was what what Mr. Curtis has stated to us. That's all I've said.
You know, one thing in closing. This is so constructive to have this conversation and move forward with this. I don't think the hurdles that we have before us are insurmountable, that we can't get through it, because we certainly can, because we have proved ourselves time and time again when it comes to really critical matters that moves this county forward. As a collective group, we have united and moved forward with some tremendous initiatives to benefit the
We
community.
have, Robert, I agree with you, but when you have people threatening other people, it's gonna be hard to move forward.
I never threatened you.
So I'd like to add something for us to consider next. I think we made a motion to amend the docket last week, is that correct?
Yeah, we were going to on that Rule 8.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, go ahead, something
We
different.
were moving vote of the chair before public comment. I think that's enough. Public comment should come first no matter what. They're our employers.
I agree.
I don't know, you'd have to go by the Robert's Rule of Orders, but you may be right.
That motion came up, we voted for chair before the public comment. You recall that?
Yeah, yeah,
I think we should maybe look at that rule.
right.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
You're referencing from our last meeting.
You're talking about do public comment before you do any
Changes to the document.
changes to the docket, so but wasn't reviewing the docket on there before or no?
I don't remember.
It's the,
The gentleman was coming up to speak.
To prove the
Public comment.
docket is on the docket
Check
before
public
public comment.
It is?
But they moved their most
He wanted their motion to be immediate. If we did
Lane
another
and
thing-
whoever made the motion to move that up before anything else.
Yeah, yeah, he wanted it right then, right now.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's fine moving things up in line. I just think public comment should stay
For any agenda.
before any true business.
Especially because if somebody is coming with a public comment, where they think it's got pertinent information to a decision that's gonna be made in the docket, you've almost, you've ignored the
Well, and that
the
individual
participation.
taking the time to reach out and ask for that
Uh-huh.
time well in advance, I think that individual should.
Oh, I do.
I agree with you. Yep.
I understand.
Okay. So, all right, we're gonna look at the next meeting we're gonna have.
Can I review one thing also? We're going to review Rule 4, point of order. We're going to review Rule 5, number 4. No, we're not. No, we're actually changing that. Rule 6, number 1. Review and compare to 6B Putnam. And then Rule 7 completely.
Right.
Those are the 3 things we're going to review
I was trying to find my notes on that, but they were right.
before I type these minutes.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Does anybody have a calendar in front of them?
30 days in the month, so it'll be October 7th.
October 7th.
Correct.
No, it was October the 14th.
We're going
It's
3
the
weeks
second and
out.
fourth. We
Oh,
did
was
it-
it second, fourth? I thought they were.
The second and fourth Monday of the month.
I believe she's right, second and
She may
fourth.
have.
I got it wrote down here somewhere.
It's the second and fourth. That's the 14th of October and the 28th of October. Are y'all good with that still?
I won't be here the 28th,
Okay.
but
Well, we could change it to a Tuesday night if we needed to. If
Are
it,
you out of town for a whole week then?
I'm actually going to be out of town the 26th through the 5th. 26th of October through the, oh, wait a minute.
we can
Yeah, you
always,
said 28.
we can always skip a time and allow him to, I
Oh,
think we
yeah.
should do that.
Through the 5th of November?
Yep.
I don't,
So you're gone that, are you here on the 7th of October?
Yes.
when you get into January, I'm gonna be gone some trade shows and stuff, and
Right.
you may be too, but there's gonna be times when you can't
Has
do it
any,
exactly.
has
the same.
anybody's talked with any of their committees that they're on that have they set any dates for
I haven't.
meetings yet or anything?
I hadn't been anything.
Education's gonna stay the same.
Ours are the same. This is pretty,
Uh-huh.
County
consistent.
corrections is not set. It may be Tuesday at 4:30, it may be Wednesday, it may be Friday. There's no set day for county corrections, so
that's tough.
it's just, can you come? You get a call, say, can you come so-and-so? Or it's, Bob Bass says, we're meeting so-and-so day, you know.
Everybody jumps in there.
When Bob calls, we just all go.
I like set times so you can.
Well, it's a good thing, yes, but the county corrections is a little different. You know, it's not, we're not going out there and just checking oil in cars and stuff every month and stuff.
Safety and beer is like the first Monday of the month too, right?
Yeah, but a lot of committees meet when they don't necessarily need
I
to.
think we're okay. No, I-
New to the committees.
Oh, you on that one?
I've been playing
That's
this
not
for
what I-
years.
You get to buy
Oh,
new
that's
ambulance,
what-
a new style. and
Okay, so in the
I was
month of
wondering.
October,
It's
we're,
about 200 grand.
second and 14th, we're gonna meet on the 14th, okay?
You're okay.
And we're gonna skip the 28th.
You gonna meet what now?
On the 14th of October, that's a Monday. We're gonna skip the 28th.
And then you're gonna come back.
And we're gonna have to pick back up, but the 11th of November is Veterans Day. It's a holiday. So let's try for the 12th.
November the 12th.
Isn't there election day in November sometime?
It'd be toward the third week or something if they are. I may be wrong. It may be the first of the month. I don't think there is election this year.
Oh, there isn't?
I don't think they are here in Warren County. I don't think so.
I hadn't heard anything about one. but-
Spring,
Spring?
yeah, there'll be one in spring,
Yeah, I don't
and
think-
then next fall.
yeah.
All right, is there any other business
think we
needs to
have
come
one
before
this
the committee?
No, I just, I think when you're at the meetings, you say what you think, you put forward your ideals, and when it's over with, you go back to being friends and residents. You know?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, you disagree with somebody, and then after it's over, you talk about your vacation. You don't take it personal. Anything I say, don't take it personal.
I want to
Because
try to get this.
everybody has a different opinion and a different view. Whatever walk of life you come from, whatever you've run across, you're gonna have a different point of view. But don't take it personal. It's not meant personally. Especially from me now. Anybody else, I don't know.
I'm figuring that one out.
I got a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to
I beat
adjourn.
Robert
Second,
to
all in
that.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?